everyone, it's Mrs. Gandro, and I am back with our second installment of Transformational Geometry, and we're taking another look tonight at translation. So it's our second segment of translations. So we're going to be sliding some more objects. So what we want to walk away with today is we want to determine how to translate a figure given a rule. So we're going to start to take a look at a rule. See if we can come up with a rule to determine how we might be able to move an object on a coordinate grid. So look at the shapes on the coordinate plane below. Using the drawing, answering the following questions. Well, what are the coordinates of A? So I'm going to come over here to A, and we always move in the X direction first, and then we go to the Y, so X then Y, so I'm -3 and a +4. And now I'm going to take a look at the coordinates of A prime. So A prime happens to be a +1, -2. So now I want to start to think about, okay, what did I do to triangle ABC to get to triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime? So what can I do to the X coordinate of A to get to the X coordinate of A prime? So A is -3. And I know that A prime, I end up at a +1. So what can I do to a -3 to get to a +1? Well, I can add 4. So if I add 4 to a -3, that's going to give me a +1. So I can say that I'm adding 4. So this is our X coordinate. Now let's take a look at the Y coordinate. Because remember, when we move an object, we move it the same, every point gets moved the same distance in the same direction. So A Y coordinate is 4, and A prime Y coordinate is -2. So what can I do to a +4 to get to -2? Well, I can subtract 6. Because a +4 minus 6 is equal to a -2. So that means that when I translate the shape ABC, I'm moving the X coordinate 4 units to the right, and the Y coordinate is going to be 6 units down. And remember, right, we move positive, down is going to be negative. So let's take a look at, let's take a look at the rest of those points as well. So now I have my X coordinate of point B. So my X coordinate of point B happens to be a -1. So the coordinates of B are -1, 2, and B prime happens to be +3, -4, and C happens to be -3, +2, and C prime is 1, -4. So my X coordinate of B is -1. And B prime happens to be a +3. So what do I have to do to a -1 to get to a +3? Well, I know a -1 plus 4 is going to give me a +3, so I'm adding 4. Now let's take a look at the Y coordinate of B. So here's my Y coordinate. So I have a +2 and a -4 because that's where I end up. What do I do to this +2 to get to -4? I subtract 6, so I'm subtracting 6. Now let's take a look at C. So the X coordinate for C is -3, and I end up at a +1. So what do I need to do to this -3 to get to the +1? Well, I need to add 4. And let's take a look at the Y coordinate of C. That's 2, and then my C prime is a -4. So what am I doing to this 2 to get to a -4? I'm subtracting 6. So we should be able to figure out right now, and in from our previous video, that we move, when we translate an object, we move it the same distance in the same direction. So when we translate the shape, we move the X coordinate 4 units to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just like that. And we talked about that in our prior video. Now, this will help us to generate a rule. And because we move 4 units to the right and 6 units down, we can write the rule as 4 negative 6. So 4 means that we're moving it to the right. This is our x direction, and since it's positive, we're moving it to the right. And the negative 6 is our y coordinate, so we're moving in the y direction. Since we moved it down, that's why we have the negative sign there. So the 4 means that we're going to be adding 4 to the x coordinate, and the negative 6 means that we're going to be subtracting 6 from each of the y coordinates. So in conclusion, under the rule of t for negative 6, I'm going to have x plus 4 and y minus 6. So now we're going to use something called arrow notation. So this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is called arrow notation. And it just shows us like the mapping. It shows us like what we're doing from one coordinate to get to the other coordinate. So we're going to start off with our original. These are original. And this is our image. And how do we know it's the image? Because we have the prime notation. In A, we start off at negative 3, positive 4. We apply our rule of positive 4, negative 6, and we end up at 1, negative 2. So I'm adding 4 to the x, so negative 3 plus 4 gives me a positive 1, and a positive 4 minus 6 gives me a negative 2. That's how I get those coordinates right there. And ladies and gentlemen, it's so important for you to make sure that you have parentheses and a comma to indicate that they're ordered pairs. Because if you just happen to write 1, 2, or if you just write 1, 2, we can say that that's 12, or this is just a list of numbers. We don't know, unless you do that you mean a coordinate pair or a point on a coordinate plane. So letter B, or point B, is positive 2. And we're applying that same rule because remember, in translations, every point gets moved the same distance in the same direction. So off to the side, a negative 1 plus 4, B prime is going to be negative 3. And a positive 2 minus 6 is the negative 4. So B is going to be a positive 3. I'm sorry, if I said negative 3, it should be a positive 3, negative 4. And C, negative 3, 2, applying that same transformation for negative 6. So off to the side, negative 3 plus 4, matching up our y's. And that's going to give me a positive 1. And then a positive 2 minus 6 gives me a negative 4. Once again, matching up my x's and my y's. And once again, this is arrow notation because we're showing the mapping and we're showing that this maps to this and we're using this rule. Okay, cool. I hope you guys are doing so good so far. And we're on to our last section here. So now I want you to try to come up with the rule. So we're going to write the rule that will translate quadrilateral EFGH to E prime, F prime, G prime, and H prime. So EFGH, I'm going to kind of outline this in red so that you can see it, and we're going from here to here. So what we want to figure out is how far left or right and how far up or down do we have to move to get this to match exactly on top of this. So I'm going to start off with point E, and it looks like I'm going to have to move it 1, 2, 3, 4 units left, and 1, 2, 3 units up. So in words, we're moving each point 4 units left and 3 units up. And that will be true for all of the other points as well. So F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and the same thing for G and the same thing for H. So in symbolic form, oops, there was my pen. In symbolic form, -4, 3. And now we're going to use arrow notation to show how each vertex maps to its image. So our arrow notation. So E, we're going to start off with the coordinates for E, and E happens to be 5, 3. And what are we doing to get to E prime? Well, we are subtracting 4 from the X, and we're adding 3 to the Y. So off to the side, -4 plus 5, and that gives me a +1. And a +3 plus 3 gives me a 6. So E prime ends up being 1, 6. Let's take a look at F. F starts off at 6, 4, so I'm 6, 4. You can label it if it helps you. And I'm applying the rule, -4, 3. And if it helps you to write it out this way, you can do this. You can say that F prime is 6 minus 4. And then we can say 4 plus 3 to give us F prime, which is 2, 7. Now let's take a look at G. G, my coordinate for G is 7, 3. And I'm translating it -4, 3. So once again, we can say G prime is 7 minus 4 and 3 plus 3. And that gives us G prime, which is 7 minus 4 is 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6. And then we finally have H, and H is 6, 1. I'm applying that same translation rule, -4, 3. And H prime is going to be 6 minus 4 and 1 plus 3. And H prime is going to be 2, 4. All right, so hopefully you got that. If you're a little lost, you can go back and check it out again. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to try one on your own. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to take a look at coming up with a rule for triangle ABC and triangle ABC prime. So how can we get ABC to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime? So pause the video, come back, and check it out. All right, so hopefully you paused the video. So in words, hopefully you came up with that we're moving each point 6 units right. So that's going to be a +6. And we're moving 2 units up. So +2. So 6 units right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 units up totally works. And hopefully you have 6, 2 written for symbolic form. Now let's take a look at arrow notation. So using those arrows, the coordinates of A are -2, -2. And we're using that translation of 6, 2 to give me A prime, which is -2 plus 6, -2 plus 2. And that gives me A prime of 4, 0. And that's exactly where we end up at. B, the coordinates of B are -5, 0. Using that same rule, 6, 2. B prime, -5 plus 6, 0 plus 2. So B prime happens to be 1, 2. And that totally is true. And then C, -3, 2. Translating 6, 2. So C prime, -3 plus 6, 2 plus 2. And C prime is 3, 4. So hopefully you all got that correct. And if not, make sure you come to class tomorrow and ask questions, because that's the way you're going to get better at all this stuff. Thank you once again for being an awesome audience. And once again, my students like to hear a little bit of music. So I'm going to play a little bit of music to get us out of tonight's video. And once again, my favorite band, U2. Have a great evening, everyone. Thanks.